Eden Care UK is a friendly intervention service providing support to people who are terminally ill reaching end of life. We advocate for a high quality of care and enhanced life choices, and challenge the isolation of elderly people through friendship and social activities. This service would not be possible without your support. Please donate edencareuk.com or call 07957 199 328.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। ও আমার বোনজি, তাইনার আব্বা আম্মা নাই, আমারও তো ঠিক নাই বিয়া দিবার। আর তাই তোরারে দিবা নে, আমরা দোয়া করবনি, তোরা সাহায্য করছো।
Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, with your help and support, we are going to fulfill the obligation of burying a brother or sister in need. We are expecting a significant rise in referral to Muslim Burial Fund, specifically in relation to COVID-19. It's impacting the people in the UK and around the world. Inshallah, we expect your help. We are also helping people with telephone helpline, telephone befriending support. We are also giving these protective suits to the funeral services up and down the country. We need your help, brothers and sisters, especially with the burial support of those most in need. Jazakallah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
আমি তোমার প্রিয় হতে চাই, আমি তোমার প্রিয় হতে চাই, আমি তোমার প্রিয়।
আমার নাম জামিলা, আমি ক্লাস 7 পড়ি। আমার আব্বা আম্মা মারা গেছেন। আব্বা মারা গেছেন 3 বছর আগে, আম্মা মারা গেছেন 2 বছর আগে।
My name is Anna. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome to MyRamadanTV. My name is Anna Bogdanova, and today I'm hosting the Eden Care Show. So today our topic is an extremely important one, especially, it's been proven by the previous year. And our topic today is loneliness. Loneliness is called a pandemic, and obviously we've been going through a different kind of pandemic recently, which severely exacerbated the feelings of loneliness across the communities. So today I have 2 guests with me. One is Usama Kayani, which is also part of Eden Care UK, and second one is Manaal Mullah, who is a trainee psychotherapist. Welcome, guys, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
So first of all, I thought I can just run through how the show is going to go today and the topics we're going to cover. So first of all, we're going to discuss what is loneliness in itself, how it happens that people feel lonely. Also, we will share some really scary, really loneliness statistics in the UK, and how it's been affected by COVID as well. We will also cover the sense of loneliness from the evolutionary perspective, just to share and expand on how come in the modern world so many people end up feeling lonely, even though we have so many people around us. We will also talk about some consequences of loneliness and how it negatively impacts people's health and well-being and state. And also we will talk about how we can actually alleviate loneliness. So about the ways on, share with people the sense of connectedness, how to alleviate loneliness within yourself, from other people, and just generally support each other through these difficult times, and potentially, help someone feel less lonely. And obviously, we'll talk about the work of Eden Care, and Eden Care UK. Our main goal, is to alleviate loneliness and to support people, at the hardest times of their lives, at the end of life, and terminally ill individuals, which can be very lonely times. And we're just going to share how we at Eden Care also do that and do our part in alleviating loneliness. So, Manaal, would you like to start by introducing what loneliness is, and how come we feel so lonely these days?
Yeah, of course. I think the simplest way that I could describe loneliness is feeling like, there's no one around us, that we don't feel connected to the people that are around us, and that they don't understand us, and just feeling alone in that. One of the biggest things to remember with loneliness is that it is a subjective experience. So everyone can feel lonely in a different way. But what we found is what matters to reduce that loneliness and to identify why people are feeling lonely. We need to think about the quality of the relationships and also the quality of the interactions that people are having in their day-to-day lives.
Absolutely. It's very interesting to think that loneliness is something perceived rather than just as a fact, that depends on the amount of people that's around you. So, even when you have, family or friends, it might not be, the quality of connection that you need. So you might still end up feeling lonely, even though all those people are around you. And other people, they live quite solitary lives, and they don't really have a lot of social connections and social networks. But a lot of people are happy that way, and they don't feel as lonely just because they're quite content just by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's not about the number of people that are around us, but more the quality of those relationships.
Definitely, yeah. And yeah, it's I mean, I imagine, through COVID, everyone has experienced, less sense of connectedness. Although interestingly, I think in March, when the pandemic first started, actually people have been almost brought together by the pandemic, because I from personal experience, I remember the sense of unity in that, in what's happening in the world. No one really knew what's happening, how to cope with all of that. So in March, it felt quite a united front, in a sense that everyone were going through the same thing. However, later on, it felt like, people kind of lost that sense of connectedness and lost that sense of unity. And, a lot of social kind of relationships and connections were impacted by, by physical distance, by inability to travel anymore, by, just getting so stressed and overwhelmed with kind of coping with the pandemic, and just not being able to be in touch as much. I'm sure, I mean, you probably experienced that in your kind of professional career, and just generally even on a personal level. And Usama, I imagine you as well, I think we all went through that.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely experienced it myself. I went from working in the office 5 days a week to suddenly being made to work from home. And like you said, at the start, it was quite exciting, quite interesting, being able to work from home. And then there was that, it's when it repeated, and when it was going on months and months and months, where you suddenly feel that disconnect with your colleagues. You suddenly feel quite self-conscious in your own work. Are you producing as good quality work as you could be and should be at home? You don't have that peer-to-peer interaction. It's really difficult. It's really intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sarish as well, she just commented and said that the unity and the novelty wore off, and then the pandemic hit home, and that's when the struggle with mental health started for many. And I completely agree. That's, that novelty definitely wore off. And it's, yeah, Manaal, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, it's so interesting to reflect back on that first month of lockdown and the pandemic. I would have like multiple Zooms with people back home. I'm not from the UK. I'm Indian and I was raised in Dubai, so all my family's back home, and it was almost like we were connecting again in a whole new way, and our interactions seemed like there was so much more to them. I do feel that that loneliness kick in quite quickly, because it's also important to remember that as humans we haven't evolved to connect through screens. The kind of connection that we feel with people face to face is one that our brains can register in that way and kind of give us those positive emotions, but we don't feel the exact same way when we see people through a screen.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone had to adjust with the screens, and all the kind of web connection to people. Yeah, it's definitely been a change and a learning curve for almost everyone, I assume.
I think it's really important as well, guys, that we check in on each other. Some people, like you rightly said, that some people prefer the solitude, and some people really miss that physical company, that one-to-one interaction with other people. Eden Care UK, for example, on Christmas Day, we donated to 8 boroughs. We had 8 teams going to 8 boroughs donating food on behalf of the council. It was a partnership program. And there was one woman that we donated food to, me and Andrew, one of our keynote volunteers. We donated the food and she started crying. She was in tears that somebody remembered her. She was doing Zoom with her family, but she lived alone. And all of these people that we donated to lived alone. And just that one, making that difference, just because we might have to socially distance, just because there are restrictions, doesn't mean that you shouldn't neglect people altogether. And that was an example where me and that volunteer were tempted to cry ourselves that moment. It was quite emotional. It was quite, I think just checking in on your family, checking on your friends is really important.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what stands at the core of Eden Care as well, of our befriending program, isn't it? It's checking in on people. We just provide a friendly, shoulder for people to rely on. Someone to talk to about their day. What they've had for breakfast. Just really everyday, like, casual things that people who have social networks, they take that for granted, because they always have that, and usually you always continue to have it, whereas for some people that sense of connectedness is lost. And it's so important to just check in on people, even just for a little conversation, kind of, what's up, how have you been. 100%, yeah. Definitely, yeah. So it's a big problem these days, and especially with COVID, it's been very stressful, I assume, for many people. And but yeah, as humans, we aren't really designed to live in this confined, solitary way, really, isn't it, Manaal? Would you like to tell us a bit more about kind of the evolution of humans, and how we aren't really meant to be by ourselves all the time, as we are kind of in the modern world?
Yeah, absolutely. When we think of the way that we've evolved, and what's been rewarded by natural selection is, as humans, what was rewarded was cooperation and that connection between individuals in our group. We're said to be born in groups of like 50 to 150 people, and that was what was normal for us. We were born in tribes, and being socially excluded meant that it would really affect our survival. Being part of that community was so much more. So and when we think of very recently, that even the term loneliness in the English language only started to be used frequently around the late 1700s during the Industrial Revolution, because people started moving from these close-knit communities into cities to work. And we've seen that continue to happen till now. Now we think, just myself, like, I've traveled all the way from the Middle East to the UK for education. And that's very normal in our world now, that we travel so far away from our communities, from our social networks, for education or jobs or whatever that might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can relate to that personally. I've moved to UK, 8 years ago, and it's very lonely initially when you leave the community where you grew up, and a lot of people, for many people it's a choice, but for many people it's also a forced situation for refugees, for people who don't really have another choice to go a different way or to stay. So, or people who flee their country for one reason or another. So it's really, yeah, loneliness can be part of a natural kind of adaptation process, I assume, but in some way it also can be a very stressful, forced experience. And I saw from Manaal what you shared with me as well is that touch also reduces cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Whereas these days, the human touch is so rare, really. With the pandemic, everyone is kind of terrified of coming close to each other. Everyone stays 6 feet away, and it's very that connection, that human touch connection, is also lost, which is definitely a big part of the of the human connection.
Yeah, definitely. I like to think of it as we've almost become a touch-averse society where, it's not common anymore for us to give our friends a hug. And of course, during COVID restrictions, probably not a good idea.
Definitely,
but there's a lot of research actually that shows how important touch is for us. Like, when you think of, there's this one research study on NBA players, like basketball in the US, and teammates that were more like physically affectionate with their other teammates actually ended really well at the end of the season compared to other teams. We're even more likely to tip someone, like tip a waiter at a restaurant, if they were to, just in an appropriate way touch us whilst we're about to pay the bill. There's really interesting connections there with touch, and unfortunately, we do live in a touch-averse society at this point in time.
So Manaal, how do we replace that then? We're talking about touch and its importance, but then in a COVID world, how does somebody replace that important part?
I think that's a really good question. It's increasingly hard living in the COVID world, especially for people that don't live with anyone. I think that if you live with people, or if you're able to form a support bubble, it's really important that when you see these people, that you do give them a hug or you do hold their hand. And I think we should normalize that touch in an appropriate way, of course, between family members as well. I know in a lot of cultures, touch isn't normal, and I know it's not in my family, I'll be honest, but it's definitely something that we can bring more of. Even if it's for every time you come home from, say, going outside after you've, of course, taken all the precautions, just a little bit of every day in the morning, something like that. Just make it part of our routine.
Would you say words have the same impact as touch? Reassuring somebody? Reassurance?
I think both.
I'd say it's a different quality of affection, I guess.
Yeah. There's a place for both, for sure. And I'm sure we're also missing out on the words of affirmation that we receive from people, because we're not able to have such quality interactions anymore. But yeah.
Yeah. I believe there is an ad break. Should be on right now, so we will continue after that. While we're waiting for the ad break, I'm just gonna.
What if I told you that you weren't weak? What if I told you that you are not a freak? So therefore, you no longer have to tweak yourself to fit into society's norms or cliques. What if I told you that you are special, beautiful and unique despite the fact of your perceived looks and physique? What if I told you that your greatness has not yet reached its peak? Today, tomorrow, give it a week or longer, you'll come up fighting much stronger. What if I told you that it does not make you weak to speak about your pains and that you are your own worst critique? What if I told you that you are not alone, for I too have upped and gone where the demons do roam, and I can't seem to find my way back home? But we are inspirited minds, we inspire others, and self-strength isn't that hard to find. We just need to look inside and see how far we've come from where it all began. You're a survivor, a fighter of these months of mental health, so keep fighting, keep trying, and I promise you God will give us ease. So please know that your happiness and peace is coming. Yes, this life isn't easy, but does that mean we give up easily? There's beauty in the mystery we struggle to attain victory. Just don't let society teach you that you're not worthy, fill you up with negativities and miseries till you're left with a mountain full of insecurities. Just know you're beautiful, you're unique and you're intelligent. I promise that you matter and your life is truly significant. You're kind-hearted and you're generous, outgoing and you're adventurous, strong, full of resilience, and one day I hope you become victorious. You're loving and you're caring and you truly are such a blessing. So continue spreading your words of wisdom, and when faced with obstacles, just know you'll eventually overcome them. You can become anything that you set your mind to. You can get through any bumps on the road that you may go through. You may make mistakes that you can't undo, but tomorrow's another day, another chance to get to the destination that you want to. You can become anything that you set your mind to. You can become a doctor, a therapist, scholar, teacher, or another role model. So don't let the judgments of others isolate you inside of a bubble. The path to your desired place might make you fall and stumble, but pick yourself up, start up again, it's no trouble. Don't cage your creativity because of others' negativity. The world needs creative minds, and it's about time that we show the world what creative minds can do. Inspire others with your artistry and show the world a different point of view. The beauty of art is vast, and you can tell stories of struggles or stories of your broken heart. Stories of strength and courage, how you overcame the darkness and how you began to flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of where you've got to, and I'm sure those witnessing your strength are proud too. You've come far, you've come a long way just to be able to say that you are here today. It means you haven't given up, and that makes you stronger than you may realize. So wipe your teary eyes, no more tears and no more cries. Pick your head up high, take a deep breath, and just know that you have a lot more strength left. This life truly is a difficult test, but you will succeed, just like the rest. So don't give up, don't give up, please don't give up, because there is hope over the horizon.
Hi, welcome back. What a beautiful advert. How moving was that? That's really great. Usama, well done for your role there. That was
Very minor,
very
but yeah.
impressive. That actually, that raises a very important topic as well, how men, when they suffer from loneliness, they don't usually come forward a lot because, of the stigma that we have in our society relating to men's mental health, and that idea that men always need to be strong and resilient, but actually it really affects men's mental health. And it can be very detrimental not to seek help. So if you're a man out there who is struggling with their mental health, please, seek help, because it's very important. It's there is help out there, and loneliness is, it's a lonely place. And it is one of those things that people need to seek support for, despite how hard it is.
As a man, he/him, myself, I agree with you. Especially, look, I've got family, we've got friends, but before I could even talk about my anxiety, for example, I felt alone. Because I felt like this is all my fault. I'm not doing things properly. I'm not planning things properly. I'm just getting overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And then I started to you begin to understand yourself so much more when you understand your mental health. I think obviously physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, they all play an important part as well. But in this instance, once I knew that I had anxiety, a big load was lifted, and I was able to talk to maybe managers at jobs or lecturers at universities and say, look, this is what it is, and they're incredibly understanding. I mean, mental health is a problem, but I think the beauty of the modern day is that it's becoming more normalized. We're discussing it more, we're talking about it more. But still, men, unfortunately, there's a lack of discussion. I think that with toxic masculinity, don't worry, just be okay. Just go on that extra shift, or your man, fix
just
up.
power
You're not
through
allowed
it.
to cry. Yeah. So, men, you can cry. It's fine. There's no problem. It's sometimes actually better for you. Anyways, that's just my point.
No, absolutely. And no woman or no one else would ever see men as weak for crying, because being emotional is such a superpower. Like it's amazing when I meet men who are so in touch with their emotions and who know themselves well enough to be able to seek help. I think that's an incredible power, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Usama. I think it's such an important thing to talk about, because the stigma, we think that the stigma is just that men feel that they have to be tough and that toxic masculinity, but actually the stigma is stopping men from seeking help, which is really unfortunate. And when we think of depression and anxiety and suicide, unfortunately, men do account for 75% of all suicides, which is very alarming. And there definitely needs to be so much more done to allow men to feel safe to open up about these things.
Definitely, yeah. And I find that women, despite women often feeling lonely themselves, I think they have often a much stronger support networks, because other females are around them, and they are aware of each other's kind of the fact that they need to support each other, whereas within male communities it might be a bit more secluded, I guess, so it's not as just as prevalent, really. Yeah,
I mean, I've got a lot of friends. Well, no, not that many nowadays, but I've got a lot of acquaintances, mates, people that I hang around with. But as men, we need to have that ability just to sit and talk about these things. We're having a tough day. I'm having a tough day. I'm having a tough week. This happened, this happened, this happened. And I think I'm quite grateful. I've got one friend which we can just open up, and just talk about things. I think it was a few months ago. Obviously, he's not watching, but we both ended up crying in a car, talking about people that we lost, and talking about grief. So that was fine. We were there for each other at that time. So, be there for each other, check in. I think it's really, really important. Just because somebody appears confident, just because somebody appears strong, doesn't mean that they're not okay. I've said that quote before, and I'll continue to say it.
100%. Yeah, definitely. And also, I think even at Eden Care, I think we have a great work environment, at least within our team, Usama. I'm sure you will agree. We all support each other mentally, and sometimes, one of us is just not having a good day, and that's okay. We just kind of pick up the slack after each other and just support each other through it, which I think is extremely important. And I think that's a very good practice for every organization and every every group of people, really.
Even if you're privileged to have better mental health than somebody else, I don't know how to call it better, but like where you're in a better position than somebody else, learn about certain conditions, learn about other people, understand where they're coming from. Okay, how do you deal with stress, or how do you feel when you're stressed? How do you feel like when you're a bit more confident? Because luckily, me and my two staff members, Anna and Sister Serish, we come from a very similar background in terms of what we're dealing with, so we can sort of bounce off each other and understand each other. So
Definitely,
yeah, understand each other. Yeah.
Just another thing also on the actually loneliness and connectedness, actually having knowing your mental health and knowing a specific diagnosis can sometimes really help for people to feel united, because they know, they're not the only one with anxiety, they're not the only one with depression. So they can seek help and they can identify with someone else through that, which I think is also extremely powerful. So that's just a bit of a detour into mental health and men's mental health and loneliness. But back to loneliness, loneliness has a lot of negative effects, and I think a lot of service users at our befriending program, they experience that, don't they? I think we always have service user files, and they state they have a lot of mental health problems, but also all of them are extremely lonely. And at Eden Care, we really try to engage volunteers and engage really anyone from our community to just spare a little bit of their time to empower and support those service users that are in need of their help, just in need of someone to listen to them. And we especially, we provide that support specifically for those at end of life and those who are terminally ill, because those tend to be the most isolated groups of people, because a lot of the times, a lot of their relatives have already passed away. So it can be very, very difficult. I think we are going to have another break right now. And we're just going to
Eden
wait.
Care UK is a friendly intervention service providing support to people who are terminally ill reaching end of life. We advocate for a high quality of care and enhanced life choices, and challenge the isolation of elderly people through friendship and social activities. This service would not be possible without your support. Please donate edencareuk.com or call 07957 199 328.
So yeah, that was just our short video on Eden Care.
Amazing. Manaal,
Yes.
why is it important to check in with people? Like even just a telephone call, for example, or taking a walk in the park, or anything within the COVID world. Why is it so important to check in?
Again, I think it goes back to that evolutionary thing of this is just not how we're meant to be. We're not meant to live in these fragmented communities and in households without anybody in them except for us. We actually feel pain, like similar to physical pain, when we're not able to connect with people socially. And I think that's something that is definitely, we're seeing a lot of when people say that they're struggling with their mental health in the midst of the pandemic, is because one of those things is that pain and that need for social connection. The thing with checking in with people is that, oftentimes, even if we see people, say, on a weekly basis, if our interactions aren't deep, we don't know what they're going through. You think of the question, how are you? And my answer is always, I'm okay, I'm well, I'm fine, and a variation of that. And we always say, ask people, how are you really? And even as a trainee therapist, I'll ask my clients, how are you at the beginning of a session? And it is an I'm fine or I'm well in therapy. And you would think that that would be a space where they feel more ready to be honest about that answer. So we definitely need to check in with people to actually understand what's really going on. Because as Anna pointed out earlier, people can, go about their lives almost be high functioning, and we might not know that they might be struggling a lot.
Absolutely, yeah. No, loneliness, as you've said as well, as you've mentioned previously, loneliness has a lot of really negative consequences for health. So, loneliness is often perceived as like just the mental state of your well-being, but actually it affects the physical health as well, doesn't it? I think it really affects, it can increase the risks of cardiovascular disease, obviously depression. It actually, there are some studies that have shown that loneliness can actually cause physiological aging. So your body ages faster if you feel lonely chronically. So it's, to me, that's just so moving to hear that, loneliness actually has a physical impact on your body, not just a mental impact, which is,
I think that's something really important about mental health, isn't it? That it's not just mental; like it's from the top, so it's going to affect all the way down. Especially with anxiety and other things as well. Same it can affect my physical body.
Yeah, yeah. I always tell my clients that it's not like our brain is divided into two halves, and one part of our brain is like, okay, this is my physical health, and the other parts, this is my mental health. So we definitely, it's all interlinked, and there's research that shows if we don't deal with our emotional pain, sometimes it can show up as back pain because our body's trying to tell us that something needs to be dealt with, and we need to work on that. So it's really interesting how the body works that way.
Absolutely, yeah. And another kind of negative effect of loneliness that I've heard of, and we've definitely seen firsthand in Eating Care as well, is how loneliness affects cognition and how it is actually related to dementia, which to me is also very just very interesting, how that feeling of loneliness, like a chronic loneliness, can actually result in exacerbated dementia, which I think is just very interesting. It's moving to think about that just that sense of connectedness with someone can actually help you with your cognitive skills at the later age.
Yeah, it's even, loneliness is also similar to smoking a pack of cigarettes every day.
Wow.
Tells us a lot about the impact that can have on us.
Absolutely, yeah. Is there, Manaal, do you have any other advice to give people on how to help with your own loneliness, or help other people alleviate loneliness? Just maybe a few pointers.
Absolutely. So, we know that loneliness is about the quality of your relationships and the quality of your interactions. So, I would always suggest that when we are, speaking to a friend, speaking to anyone that we know, it's important that we're able to bring our vulnerable side to that conversation. Vulnerability is the key to connection. And I think we often miss out on that because our conversations are so surface level all the time, especially if it's a short interaction. I would also say, share things that you wouldn't share on your social media, because we often share our highlight reels, and it's easy for a friend of ours to see our Instagram story and say, oh wow, okay, you went for dinner at this really nice place, but they don't know that you actually not having a very good day. So share something that you don't share on social media. Also compassionate listening, and I think what I mean by that is showing empathy for the fact that you want to be in the same shoes as what people like, kind of understand what people are going through, but also try to help them with that. If you realize that someone's not doing well, can you provide them with some resources, or can you direct them in a direction that allows them to seek that help?
100%, yeah. That's I think that's what we do at Eating Care as well. We try to, if we think that we aren't able to support someone, in the way that they need to be supported, we try to signpost them to the relevant support service, just because there are different ways that people can be supported in. And I think it's very important that within the community, everyone comes together and support someone needy from kind of a variety of perspectives, really, and in a variety of ways. So at this point, I just would like to encourage everyone to go to Eden Care UK website. So that's just edencareuk.com. And please fundraise for us, in the month of Ramadan, and generally always. We are trying to support as many people as we can, and the only way that we can do that is with people's support and the community support. You can also join us as a volunteer, as a befriender, and that's just an hour out of your week that you can support someone vulnerable who is really needing their connection. And sometimes, with our service users, their befriender is the only person that they speak to throughout the whole week, especially with the pandemic. So it's very important that we continue that work, especially now that a lot of people are still shielding and still not leaving their houses. We can also help you set up your fundraising page if you'd like to fundraise for us. As I've said, we're going to help you all the way through this process, and you will never be alone in that quest, really. And yeah, please join us, please support our work, and we really hope you enjoyed our talk about loneliness, and I hope we managed to shed some light on how loneliness is essentially a pandemic in itself. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed the show, and thank you so much for our lovely guest Manaal, and to Usama for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you.